Hello, Patrick here. Alicia, I just want to say your video on stereotypes was quite good. You hit a lot of good points about how stereotypes, though sometimes they can unfortunately be true, they shouldn't be what defines a person. You can't take a stereotype and then apply every single aspect of that to a person because we're all individuals. I mean, you may be the kind of girl that's gay that likes to have short hair and wear, well, men's clothes. But there are other gay women out there that don't like doing that. For example, Portia de Rossi. She's with Ellen DeGeneres. She likes to dress up in girly clothing, but she's gay. How can you equate both of them to the same stereotype? Reason you can't. For example, I'm Irish. I have red hair, pale skin. Does that mean I'm soulless because I have red hair? No. I'm also a gamer. Does that mean that I sit in my parents' basement and just sit there and play video games all day and I don't ever do anything else? No. I'm married. I have a wife. I have my own apartment. As you can see. Let me show you my computer. There's my monitor, there's my tower, there's Ash from Evil Dead. I'm my own person. I have a home, I have expenses, I do the same things a lot of other people do. I just choose to spend my time playing video games. My wife chooses to spend a lot of her time knitting. As you could probably tell by the crap tons of yarn that are everywhere.
Hey, it's hours and hours of entertainment for less than the price of a movie ticket.
Whatever you say. If you could hear that. But continuing on. Part 2 of Pet Stories. This will be focusing on Junior, Chester, and Missy, the 3 main pets that I had growing up. Now, for those 3 main ones, we gave them all nicknames. So I'll start with Junior. His nickname was one of 2 things. Funny Bunny, or Junior Tunes. Why? Because he was hilarious. Especially when he tried to hunt rabbits. Now imagine a little brown and white lump scooting along the ground hunting rabbits. What was even more hilarious is that we had a pet fence cable. That was a wire that we buried under the ground around an enclosed area that emitted a radio signal picked up by a shock collar on his neck. If you got too close, it starts beeping at you. Get even closer and it zaps you. So it was really funny watching him sneak along. Jump, zap, ah! And the rabbits run off into the wilderness. Well, he sits there staring at him, wagging his tail, wondering what the hell just happened. Well, he was hilarious with that cable. You could see in the wintertime, we get a lot of snow around here because I'm in the snow belt of Lake Erie, one of the Great Lakes of northeastern America. You see in the wintertime a path that he would arc from one point of where the wire was to the next, checking to see if it was still there. And if it wasn't, off like a rocket. Go off and exploring. One of the problems we saw with that wire was if you go too fast, it doesn't acknowledge your distance. All it did was beep. And he ran too fast once, went right through. It didn't shock him until it tried to come back. And then it kept on beeping at him, and he wouldn't go any further because he knew what was going to happen next. My father had actually go outside, take the collar off, send him inside, and then he stupidly held on to the electrocuting part while walking over the wire. He can attest that it does hurt. Yeah, it does hurt a lot. I remember when we first tested out that wire, I was keeping a close eye on Missy. And Missy was always a smart dog, so she was very carefully and cautiously walking around, because usually we'd let her outside with a leash on. And she didn't have one this time, so she was wondering why, and why we were standing so close to her. So she inched forward. All of a sudden, started hearing a beeping. Inched forward. Zap, pow! She leaps almost as high as my head, does a 180-degree turn, lands, and is off like a rocket to the other side of the house, where unfortunately the wire is on its other side. get zapped again. Those are the only 2 times she ever got zapped. Every single time after that, whenever she went outside, she only went to a small area, did her business, and then came right back inside. Because she knew that it was safe in the inside. She didn't know if it was safe on the outside. And you can't get them out of that. Even when we reburied the wire to give them more room, they still wouldn't go over it. Over where the wire originally was, they still wouldn't. Because they were that scared of it. Now, continuing on with Junior. Another instance of him chasing animals was chasing a neighbor's chicken. Yes, my parents' neighbor still has chickens. Now, those chickens, he doesn't keep them penned up like he should. Sometimes they get hit by cars. Sometimes they actually get across the road to the other side being our yard. I still vividly remember watching Junior chasing that chicken in circles around our front yard. And then just before the end of the chase, him reaching forward and snapping down on its back tail feathers, and walking home victorious with feathers sticking out of his mouth. Yeah, that chicken died, because it ran into bramble to get away from Junior, and it didn't come back out. Kind of sad, but also funny at the same time. The very first time that Junior ever came into our house, we got him, I think it was October of 95. We brought him into the house and we were showing him around, like a dog, hey, here's this room, new things, here's my brother and I's bedroom. He proceeded to poop on the floor. Stop laughing.
Sorry.
It's not funny, especially I have to clean that up. Yeah. He proceeded to poop on the floor. Yeah, that was Junior. He was quite funny. Especially considering the fact that he had short front legs, but big, powerful back legs. So when he ran, it looked hilarious. Because he'd be bobbing up and down like a hobby horse, running. But he was fast for his size and for the awkwardness of his run. He also could jump really high, like onto a standard kitchen table from a sitting position. And I've seen him do this. Continuing on, there's Missy. Missy, we call her Silly Missy because she was kind of silly, but she was also what my twin brother would have described as a princess, as in everything belonged to her. Everything, including the food you were eating. It was really hilarious watching her watch you eat food. She'll stare at you and follow your fork or knife or spoon or what have you as it went from the plate to your mouth, especially when she put her chin on your lap and just sat there looking at you, giving those big old puppy dog eyes that all dogs know. Yeah, she was very greedy. If you gave a plate of food to Missy and just let her go, you'd come back the next day and see a ring of a plate with a hole in the center and her licking the linoleum underneath. Because that's how badly she wanted the food. She'd just lick and erode the plate away. Also, Missy was a very defensive dog. She didn't like being touched when she ate. She didn't like being picked up. But she certainly did like it when you gave her food. But she was very protective of her food. Of course, she was also very thieving with her food. I remember a couple times Junior snapping at her. See, Junior was a very defensive dog with his food as well. And as Missy got closer and closer and closer, he'd growl louder and louder until he snapped at her. Chester was a big pushover. Every time Missy came over, he just walked away from his food and she gobbled it down like the pig she was. One of the most bizarre tales I have of Missy is the one time that she came in while she was gone. She'd gotten out of the yard, and she came back with what looked like a birch tree branch, which they're mostly white with some black spots. Only thing was, this didn't have black spots, it had red spots and a big, dark end. It wasn't a birch tree. It was a deer leg, minus the skin, tendons, and muscle. Fully articulated. That was creepy. I took Missy inside, grabbed it with my thumb and index finger, and carefully put it into the garbage. Now, the reason why that deer leg was there, Missy didn't catch the deer, of course. hunters sometimes will illegally go through our property and shoot the deer that do frequent our property. And this one was mutilated in order to get everything off it that the hunter could as quickly as he could. And therefore all that was left was one of the de-skinned legs. Though probably it was scavenged by predators. That's likely what happened. Because we do have, I think they're foxes. Yeah, you have foxes in our property. So they may have found the remnants and just took the skin off themselves. What else? I think that's it for Missy. Now to finally Chester. Pardon my French, but his nickname was Dumbass. Because he was stupid. He was a very stupid dog. But he was very lovable and very friendly, and almost never growled or barked. Almost never. Unless there was an intruder or like another animal. But he almost never growled or barked at you. He was very, very docile. But also very playful. And painful. I remember one instance where he almost broke my leg. I was sitting in the kitchen watching TV. All of a sudden he wanted to go outside, so I let him outside, but he kept on whining. So I went outside. What, Chester? What? He wanted to play. Doing that thing where they stand at your feet, then zap away and run away from you. That kind of thing. He ran away. Now, he was on a leash because he's immune to the pet fence cable. My father caught him sleeping on top of where the cable was, being electrocuted while sleeping. So he needed a collar. He needed a chain on his collar. So he ran away from me. And he circled around. The point that the chain is attached to the ground is on my right. He's on my left. I'm walking down the center, and he decides to run towards the house, clotheslining my leg, and snapping and ripping my leg out of the socket and snapping it back in. I don't know if that's considered dislocating your knee or hyperextending your knee. All I know is it hurt like I was being hit with a sledgehammer. Very, very painful. I sat on the ground for a minute or two, then crawled inside through the pee and poop-soaked grass. Crawled all the way through my house because I could not stand up. I couldn't fully outstretch my leg. Crawled into the living room and looked at my father and said, "Dad, I can't go to work tomorrow. I think Chester broke my leg." Dad looked me up and down and said, "You're fine, you can go to work." My dad is a character. When it comes to how the dogs died, Missy went kind of painfully. She had a seizure one morning, and my mother decided that there was no more point in keeping her suffering like this, so she took her to get her put down. Chester was the same way, but Junior, he lived, I think I mentioned this, but he lived till he was almost 17 years old. Missy didn't live until she was even 14. I think he was 13. Chester, I think he was around 12. Well, this video is getting kind of long, and if it gets over 15 minutes, it can't upload, so I'm going to end it right there. I look forward to what you guys say about those animal tales. Patrick signing off.